the end of the day, it starts with talking to your kids about drugs and having very honest and open conversations.
And peer pressure, because that's a real thing.
And that's why the kids start, right? They're curious, they're young, they're being experimental because that's the age they're doing it.
Bring it on!
Welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. I'm Farley Boyle, girl mom.
And I'm Jennifer Brenius, boy mom.
Together, we're Team Boyle-Renius. Each other's ride
or die. This is where grit gets real. We don't just talk, we do it.
We're here for the messy stories, the hard-fought lessons, and the courage it takes to keep showing up.
Especially when it's uncomfortable. We bring gratitude and attitude to everything we do.
We jump in head first, unafraid, and are all in all the time.
We bring it on and get it on, diving into unscripted conversations on just about everything.
We don't just talk grit, we live it.
We put the it in grit.
So let's get gritty.
Hi, and welcome to Girls Gone Gritty. We are back together in Bring It On Studios. I'm finally healthy, and Jen's back from her vacation to OBX. We had a phenomenal 4th of July weekend on our bike crawl.
Thank God we had no injuries. We're both safe and sound.
Yes, you're a little accident prone by the end of the crawl, but we were still biking, not crawling.
Thank God, because crawling after biking is never a good idea. Thank God I wasn't crawling getting back from Outer Banks. I was so scared of the trip back because the time prior my family took this trip, it took 12 hours plus in ways. It's only 8 hours. You have to make 2 or 3 stops. So the 8-hour trip took us 10. That wasn't too bad, but 10 hours in the car is a long time. I don't recommend it.
I like trying to shave off time. That's always my goal. If I get in a car and I see that my destination is 5 hours and 26 minutes, if I can get 6 minutes shaved off, that's a big number because it's usually pretty accurate if you're doing a continuous drive. And then I'll be excited. I'm like, I'm beating it. I'm beating the clock. We're going down. It gives me something to think about. And I get excited trying to shave off the duration of the drive.
It's good to be back in Jersey for the rest of the summer because it's the place to be.
I know. My husband keeps trying to get me to go to Florida. And I'm like, this is where I want to be during the 4 months of the year we live here for this very reason. It's not time to pack it up and split.
But there is no shoulder season at the Jersey Shore right now. We are thick in
shoulder to shoulder with every single person that wants to be in the Jersey Shore. It's a lot of traffic and a lot of people.
A lot of people.
Totally. Well, our top 3 is always interesting. And today it's a little serious and a little not so serious.
We're talking about big political things that impact our lives. So Number 3, hydration break is a real problem if you're a soccer player because it's not meant to be FIFA.
Continuous play of game. You have a halftime. That's what soccer players are used to. They play 2 halves. And everybody is up in arms because it allows the athletes to get a reprieve. So they've got more gusto and it seems like more PKs as a result. And coaching and strategizing can happen during these water breaks. But Jen and I think it's just follow the money, because if you have 2 water breaks a game and how many games in the World Cup, and now you've got a Super Bowl type ad being showcased twice during the game that used to not be a factor. Somebody's getting rich.
And FIFA's no dummy either because their logo goes right after the ad and it's held there for a few seconds longer. It's the last thing you see before you go back to the play. And the players are the ones that are up in arms about this because not only is this happening in fields in Mexico that have higher temperature and humidity, but it's happening in places where they're playing indoors and there's no humidity. It's a perfect 72 degrees. Changing the game of soccer that's an endurance sport that is meant to play 45 minutes halftime. You get to regroup and then another half. And if you go to PKs, that has nothing to do with the playability of the game. It has to do with the goalkeeper predominantly and one kicker. I don't appreciate the fact that they're changing the game. And at the end of the day, this is a money grab. It's not
the players aren't happy. They're disgruntled too.
Yeah.
So when a player is expressing negative juju, you know there's a problem. I understand if it's 110 degrees out. Soccer players are used to not drinking.
Right.
They're used to this. This is what they have done their entire careers.
And these fields, we fact checked this because I was curious and it's creating an issue for the NFL. These are all on grass fields that have been reconstituted for FIFA. So they don't even have the added feature of the heat that comes off of the turf.
That burns the
That
hell out of
burns
your feet.
everything.
And blisters.
The fact that those two things have changed simultaneously, it's just boggling to me that they make this change. It's not okay. And we know as athletes, it changes the cadence of the game. You could have momentum and you take a break and it changes everything.
Does. I'm happy about the grass because there's going to be less injuries if that keeps tipping, because turf is synonymous with ACL injuries, etc. But
let's see how powerful the NFL is and how the owners feel about changing it over, because it can be done. That's what FIFA has proven. Number 2, your birthright status stays. The 14th Amendment is intact.
So for you that don't know what we're talking about, if you are born in the United States of America, no matter whether your mother is an illegal alien or she just crossed the line in Mexico, if you are born on American soil, you are an automatic citizen. Trump decided that he would like to take that on and lost, which is surprising. I understand both sides of it. We talked about if you were from another country and it was deplorable conditions and you got pregnant, wanted to come to America to give your child a better life at all costs. I understand that. However, we can't take every person's child that is in utero that wants to give birth on our soil, because as taxpayers, we are paying for that person. You got to draw a line somewhere. Jen made a great point earlier. 250 years ago, we had a lot of people from different countries that were coming in to settle in the United States. That made sense. All kinds of people that were flooding the U.S. looking for freedoms and to establish their claim. We're 250 years past that now. And I do believe that the Constitution language needs to be changed with the times.
We're not alone in the birthright citizenship. There are many countries, our northern border, Canada. And I saw this firsthand in Vancouver, and I didn't really understand what they were so upset about. They're so close to China. It's called birthright tourism. And what was happening is that people are very smart. People know how to use legal loopholes. They were coming at very late stage pregnancies and then making sure that they gave birth while in Vancouver. And the problem is that it puts an enormous amount of resources on very small communities most of the times, because most of the times what happens is people will come where they know people, right? That's the way immigration works. So this this community of Vancouver was seeing a massive increase and influx of this exact occurrence happening. And I understand you have to be from somewhere.
Well, their incentive is free healthcare, free education.
Of course. But I think we have to tighten up the right way to do this, because you want the rights of the parents and the citizen on the soil. And then it depends on each country if you can have both. Canada recognizes them as citizens, but China doesn't. So it's not mutual. And that's where people get upset. If you have somebody coming into this country, if we did the same someplace else, we don't get that same right.
Think about a boat filled with refugees and they're all pregnant and they all land on an American shoreline. I understand what Trump was trying to prevent. It gets out of control. It's a lot.
Well, the Supreme Court didn't agree with his executive order, and birthright citizenship is here to stay. Number 1, the Supreme Court said women only in women's sports, state by state basis.
That's a no-brainer. Women should play with women and men should play against men. And regardless of transition, it's not about that. It's about the physicality of male versus female biology. They're stronger, faster, bigger, more capable than we are. And we do not need them as opponents or teammates.
Listen, I think that it's really obvious, especially going back to what I just said about the reciprocal rights of citizenship. If there's no reciprocality in women looking to play in men's league, then
well, the men don't have a problem with somebody that transitioned as a...
Correct. That's what I'm saying. When it's not equal, there's a more advantageous place for men that want to play in women's sports. And is there an impetus for them to transition because of the sport? You hope not. You hope there's a real need and desire. And I don't judge that.
And there's people that transition and they're happier as another sex, which
Absolutely.
is great. And we support that. But there are definitely people that recognize that they're going to be more superior on the other side of the fence. And that's not okay.
Yeah. And if there is an outpouring of people transitioning that want to play, at some point, you're going to have to create a league. It's like the enhanced athletes, where they acknowledge the fact that there are athletes that are taking performance enhancements, and they're in a different category. You cannot pretend you're doing this the real way and naturally if you're taking anything that's changing your biometrics. So I think it's the same.
A league of their own. Create a league of their own, or whoever isn't bothered by it might want to participate. But until that time, this is the way it needs to be. And I'm very happy the Supreme Court ruled in Trump's favor.
I'm always enthralled with the Supreme Court discussions because they do impact your life. And it does get lost in the myriad of things where nobody's paying attention until there's a ruling, and being more educated and watching some of the things they take on as controversial would be empowering to you to be dialed into. But you're not going to be able to do that for a while because now they're on hiatus. Today was the last day of their session for 2026.
I think their next session in 2027 should be removing fentanyl. What we are discussing today is drugs and how it's become such a slippery slope for this generation because drugs look like candy. They're appealing and the packaging is confusing, and there's ways to beat the system. You can buy illegal, illicit goods at gas stations. It's become very challenging. And if I was raising young teens today, I would sit them down and have a conversation with them about all of it. There's names that are sneaky, almost like our slang episode. You might not know that Molly is ecstasy because Molly sounds like male in Spanish. We're not talking about Molly and Famali. We're talking about a drug. And sometimes these things are hidden in plain sight. And the language that's used to discuss them is confusing. So we're going to tackle that today and not try to scare as much as we're trying to educate, because communicating and having conversations about things that are tough to talk about is the way to go.
Especially when you recognize that your young teen becomes a college student. They're going to embark on these kinds of things on their own. And you have gateway situations. And we accept the fact that there are some rites of passage that are going to happen with the kids. But these illicit drugs are readily available. And it can be one and done, especially
they're like
with
dirty
fentanyl.
bombs now. Anything goes. Everything under the kitchen sink can be in some of these things, which is terrifying. Back when we were growing up, people would do shrooms or cocaine. I don't remember cocaine being cut with fentanyl. I remember it being cut with laxatives or even just aspirin, another white powder form of something. But now everything is being cut so that people can profit more, and they stick a little fentanyl in everything because it's really addictive. And then that drug dealer is getting hit up. It's in Adderall, it's in Xanax. And we have learned that we were out of tune with a lot of the language and the new designer drugs.
And it's complicated. There's different classifications, and a lot of them started for good intention and good reason. And
they're
some
abused.
Do have medicinal purposes. You talked about the fact that your mother had some.
My mom was on fentanyl patches when she was in the throes of her cancer. Right. And she was using opioids and fentanyl patches. Those patches were such a problem. When I put the patches on my mom, I had to wear gloves, and her patch would stay on for 72 hours, and I would still have to put on gloves to extract the patch. That is how strong and potent fentanyl is. It's actually terrifying. I said to Jen earlier, why is fentanyl even legal? It does do medicinal things. It does help a certain demographic that technically needs it. But to put it in perspective, it's a synthetic opioid. It's contrived. It's not from poppy plants. It's chemicals. It's 50 times more potent than heroin. And it's 100 times more potent than morphine.
Yeah. And you said 10 little grains
of salt.
Fentanyl, like salt size, can kill you.
Yes. That's called a lethal dose.
And that's why it's become an epidemic of epidemic proportions, and why it's creating such an issue, because
it's cheap. So they can throw it in things to try to dilute whatever the more expensive material is.
And to get you more addicted, have you be a repeat customer. But they got to get the formulation just right, because if they formulate it too heavy, they kill a bunch of people.
I read a statistic, I think it was like 140,000 deaths by overdosing. 66% came from opioid derivatives that were synthetics, i.e. fentanyl. It's killing people everywhere. And it's terrifying because you can't distinguish the difference between a real pure drug and something that's been cut or laced with something else. And that would be what I would stress to my child over and over again. You don't know where it's coming from. I don't know how you trust a drug dealer.
But you don't.
There's designer drugs, and I'm going to scare you a little bit because we were reading about pink cocaine. Meanwhile, there's not even cocaine in pink cocaine. It's called Tusi, Tusi, and it's got ketamine, MDMA. Ketamine is a depressant. We're going to talk about K-holes and special K because that's ketamine. MDMA is ecstasy. We're not talking about MMA fighting. We're talking about a drug here. And it's also mixed with caffeine and opioids. It's strawberry scented, and it comes in a powder or a pill. They're marketed to our youth. The packaging is attractive. The color's attractive. It doesn't look like it could be harmful. It looks like it's going to be tasty, and it smells good. They probably got that from the tobacco companies that made vapes smell delicious.
They're just recognizing the fact that if you make it candy-like, you're going to consume it because it's in the brain. It's a dopamine effect. Even just seeing it gives you a dopamine effect.
Pink cocaine has ketamine, MDMA, caffeine, and opioids all in one. What message is your brain receiving?
Brain very confused.
And that's the thing. We talked about it many moons ago. Kids rob medicine cabinets and party where they call it go fish. And every kid has to come to the table to get in the door with 6 pills. Let's say there's 50 kids, 50 times 6. Now you have 300 pills that they put in a big bowl, and they give you a Dixie cup, and you're allowed to go fish and scoop out your poison of choice.
And then you get to pick one?
No, everybody that comes with 6 leaves with 6.
Oh.
So you're just getting a mixed bag of whatever. You don't know what it is. Go fish. Okay, here I go. And that's a real thing.
I don't understand it. I get horrified that they're getting it from the medicine cabinets of their home. And the fact that we're not being more careful with locking up pills and keeping an eye on prescription drugs
and counting them and knowing
is a really important thing, because addiction happens before you even can get a hold of it, before you as a parent can get a hold of it.
Especially if you have an addictive personality and you don't know. All it takes is one time being exposed and you're hook, line, and sinker.
Or the drug is of such that it's hook, line, and sinker. And that could be one bit of something that's laced. And people have things in their medicine cabinet that they've got from other people, and it's not technically prescribed by a doctor for that person.
No.
It's been shared because it's easier.
The dates could be expired.
And the efficacy changes. So you really have to be careful with prescription drugs at home. That's for sure.
Well, I'm going to scare you guys with a story. My first experience of seeing somebody on Special K. And I thought this person was dying. I thought the person was almost in a coma, and they call it a K-hole, and it's ketamine. And this person was unable to walk or talk, definitely paralyzed, sitting slouched, inaudible. This was in Las Vegas at a club, and I actually knew the person. And I said to a friend of ours, I think we need to call 911. He's like overdosing. And all the people that were familiar with him were like, K-hole, K-hole, chanting K-hole, because they knew that he was in the K-hole. And when you suddenly come out of it, then they started chanting his name. And he was as high could be. So you have to kind of go through the K-hole to come out on the other side.
Little metamorphosis of the drug. Yikes.
Terrifying. So that is ketamine, Special K, and K-holes. There also is a drug called GHB. Now, GHB is similar. It's gamma hydroxybutyrate. And the first time I heard about it, I knew that trainers were using it. Bodybuilders would take it before they would go to bed, thinking that their bodies would be stripped of extra fluid and water. And it also would stimulate a growth hormone so that their muscles would repair and potentially get bigger before competing. It's clear and odorless. People used to carry it around in water bottles. So this is something that you need to talk to your kids about. You see a water bottle in a partying atmosphere, and you're not supposed to drink and do GHB. It's one or the other, and you really shouldn't be doing GHB. It's distributed by the capful. And a lot of times people give a capful to whoever the unsuspecting person is, and it goes down like water. You don't even know what you're consuming, because if you've been drinking, who's counting the capfuls of GHB at this point.
Well, let's talk about the environment in which you're in. You're probably in a state of disassociation to begin with in some of these clubs. It can take a sideways bend when you're trusting somebody you don't know. Regular drugs that are prescribed by a doctor, some of them have eat with food. Some of them are on an empty stomach. So all of these illicit drugs that are harsh on the system, one day you could be fine, and the next day it could kill you.
This is a nervous system depressant, GHB, and has qualities that are similar to ecstasy. It's known as G, liquid X, or fantasy. That's the name that it goes by on the street or with the kids. I've also witnessed people on GHB, and one of my closest friends' brothers, who was a very straight-laced guy, barely partied. He would drink, but never was somebody that was self-medicating or doing any type of drugs. He had a breakup. He went out with a group of friends. They wanted to get him over the hump, and he started getting capfuls of GHB. He was not counting because he wasn't aware of what it was, and he overdosed, and it was devastating, and he is no longer with us. And that was a young man in his early 30s, out of the warning zone age range.
Maybe not. I'm not sure what the warning zone is anymore. And here's where your infrastructure of people is even more important, because having a wingman and having somebody that knows.
He was vulnerable.
Here's the first problem. When you have an odorless, tasteless cap full of a substance that you can take.
Imagine if somebody would pick up the bottle and drink the whole bottle. It's frightening. Odorless and no taste. That's toxic. You have to let your kids know that those substances are out there and that they can't tell that they're ingesting them beyond swallowing a cap full of something odorless and tasteless.
Yeah. And think about how quick that is to pour in somebody's drink, which happens all the time.
It can also be used as a date rape drug for sure.
Yeah.
Another drug, MDMA, I laugh. It's like the MMA. It sounds like an organization or like the feds coming in or something. It's ecstasy, also known as X. It comes in a lot of different forms, but ecstasy is also something like Rufinol that can be used as a roofie, and you can be drugged and date raped. There's not a positive here.
No.
Rainbow fentanyl is rage now, and we're going to share photos of what that looks like. It's almost chalk colored Skittles. It looks like these pleasing little candies that could kill you within one swallow.
At the end of the day, it starts with talking to your kids about drugs and having very honest and open conversations.
And peer pressure, because that's a real thing.
And that's why the kids start, right? They're curious, they're young, they're being experimental because that's the age they're doing it. And then it also becomes like, well, why don't you want to do it? Don't you want to be a part of our group? It's an inclusion aspect of being an adolescent and being in college.
We read an article that social media is ground zero for drugs for this generation.
For everything. Let's just go back to that.
It's ground zero for everything. It's frightening that a young child can consume graphic imagery of drugs, what it looks like, and watch TikToks and be exposed before we even have conversations with them. So that's the other thing that you have to take into consideration. If you're giving your kid a device, they're learning so much more than we ever did before you're having a conversation. And don't you want to be the one that's educating and empowering your child before they see some jackass do something on TikTok, like do a lethal amount of something to look cool because it's a challenge? There's a lot of very frightening things that are readily available. Jen is going to talk about what you can get at your local convenience store or your gas station.
Gas station heroin has been around for a really long time. And the problem with it is it looks very much like the 7-Hour Energies, and the Kratom is the one that I've seen in a convenience store here in New Jersey. These drugs operate in a legal gray area, which is the problem, because the other drugs we've talked about, they're either for medicinal uses or they're illegal. These can skirt a lot of state regulations and don't have age verification to purchase these items. And they mimic prescription painkillers like opioids. So the addiction piece of these gas station bottles goes up exponentially. And you wouldn't know as a parent a lot of times. Listen, I feel this way about some of these sports energy drinks. Oh, yeah. I pull up these energy drinks that my kids can buy anywhere in a grocery store. Yep. And I'm like, what the hell is this crap you're drinking? They are not healthy. They are not okay. And they are just barely getting away with what they're doing.
I remember going to gas stations in college looking for No-Dos.
Oh,
because they were a huge thing. And
So wait, explain to people what NODOs are, because not everybody knows NODOs.
Well, there was NODOs and there were broncholators, two different things that you could get at a convenience store or a gas station. And NODOs, people would take it if they were driving cross country or if they wanted to stay up late. Truckers take it, which is what I think the Kratom is.
Yeah, it's a stimulant. The Kratom is more of a opioid style stimulant, but the NODOs, I think, are more of a enhanced caffeine product.
There's also Phenibut, Phenibut, which affects GABA receptors and creates sedation or euphoria. So maybe that's more similar to the NODOs. And the broncholators was for people that had asthma. Yeah. But really, it just made you wake up. And that's what Nikki Taylor's sister died from. Chrissy Taylor, which was devastating. I think she was taking broncholators while she was drinking. And it really increases your heart rate. And
I also think this is during the time period of the diet pills being a big thing, where everybody was on the diet pill. So let's be clear when we say these things. We had these issues when we were
growing up.
However, what we're seeing is the escalation and the intensity of availability and awareness has also escalated on the same trajectory of insanity.
The only thing that was attractive when we were growing up might be a pot brownie because it looked good and you didn't taste it if they prepared it correctly. But now there's gummies and candy looking everything and packaging that is compelling you to open and ingest it. We did not have to deal with that. If I saw a giant gummy bear or a Swedish fish, and I was 13 years old and I thought I could get into that package and eat it, I was going to.
Yeah, but going back and dating ourselves quite a bit, the availability and volume of products that consumers have at our fingertips has also gone exponential. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to purchase it because we had one store in our town and you didn't have everything coming to you via Amazon or via your device and figuring out a way to get it.
Another big thing was Whippets. People would do Whippet, which was the
whipped cream
dispenser or those little silver
canisters.
Whippets were the big thing.
All you had to do was go to the grocery store and get nitrous oxide from whipped cream.
Ready Whip?
Yeah, Ready Whip.
Had at the end of it,
nitrous oxide. When you get it out, that's how it pushes it up. And people would do Whippets. You didn't get the intensity of the canisters people were doing. But again, it's always been there.
Yeah.
But our point is that it's just so much more dangerous, so much more available and tolerated, I'll say, because everybody's trying to be cool.
And mixed with so many more ingredients. Another thing that's starting to make a resurgence is K2 or spice, which is known as fake weed. So there you have synthetic cannabinoids. And whenever you factor a chemical into something, the word synthetic should scare the crap out of you. This is when kids were vaping and getting popcorn lungs. It's cheaper. It's readily available for them. They can go buy these contraptions at gas stations.
Yep.
And we have to instill fear in our kids that it could be one and done, or you don't know what you're getting because life isn't a box of chocolates and you're getting everything thrown in under the kitchen sink like the Go Fish Party model.
And we have to remind them that the companies all want you to become a user. And I have never seen that word used in any other way, but getting you addicted and stuck on something.
Absolutely.
Like you're not a member of a club. You're not included in a community. They're not trying to build utopian society. They want to isolate you, alienate you, and take your money. That's what vapes are doing with all these candy-like flavors for the kids to consume. Most grown adults aren't looking for bubble gum vaping. That is not targeting the adult consumer.
It's allowing them to be sneaky because it smells good.
You have to hide your cigs.
I'm going to give you guys a real scare. There's a drug out there called Scopolamine, and this is also known as devil's breath, and it was created to help with anti-nausea and people that get the bends when they go scuba diving or during anesthesia. If you get nauseous coming out of a surgical procedure, Scopolamine was used. But if overused, it can actually put you into a trance, and it's known as a zombie drug. You're coherent enough that people can drain your bank account. You're coherent enough that they can do a surgery and steal your organs.
Good Lord.
It is a real thing. And once again, it's a powder or it's odorless and clear. Somebody can just blow it in your face, put it in your drink. And if you have too much of it, suddenly you're unable to move, unable to communicate. You see what's going on around you. You understand, but you're trapped in your own body and anybody can have their way with you. Just Google Scopolamine, devil's breath, zombie, drug, and you will be terrified. Tell your kids about this drug because it's out there.
And again, know your surroundings, have your team of people, be in a place where if your gut tells you something's wrong and you don't trust your surroundings, leave.
Yep.
Because what we're saying is that all of these drugs, unfortunately, with them being odorless, tasteless, they are also very difficult to test for. So when you go to the hospital after suspected of having a date rape drug or being roofied, or they can't identify for certainty. They can make a pretty good guess based on vital signs and things of that nature, but they can't determine exactly when or where things happen a lot of the time.
One of the problems is, let's say, scopolamine. It wasn't something that was being abused, so it wasn't in the system. You have to have so many repeat offenses where people go to the FDA and make reports about these odorless, clear drugs. And then they develop the systems to check to see if that's really what caused somebody to be hospitalized.
Right. It's so hard. Anybody who's listening, most people have had a blood panel. You need to test specifically for even a simple thing as Lyme.
Right.
It's not going to automatically come up. You have to test specifically for things, and therein lies the problem.
And if there's not a test,
when we have 9,000 illicit drugs, and we don't know, it could be any of them, it could be all of them, it could be a combination. And at the end of the day, you don't want to have to get to a point where you test for it, because that means you've already become a victim of something. You want to mitigate your risk, be educated, trust your friends, know your surroundings, and
your kids. Ask them, what have you guys seen? Have you seen cocaine yet? Cocaine is huge right now. It's everywhere. It's in high school. It's in college. It's always been around. It is the drug of choice yet again. Maybe it never went away.
I think it never went away. I'm sad to say, but I think it never went away. I think it's one of those drugs that Hollywood has glorified on a lot of levels. There has been a lot of drug use permitted in our society. And like it or not, marijuana was always the gateway drug. So the lines on drugs are blurred. That's
no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. The important thing is to know that fentanyl changed the playing field completely. There is no remedy. It's a death sentence.
I think you need to ask your kids if they've seen people consuming anything and make them aware. I remember one of my daughters was horrified. She thought she saw people snorting cocaine, but they were snorting Adderall. Adderall can also be used for a high. It can be a party drug when it's used incorrectly. And I had no idea. I did not know that you could chop up Adderall and snort it. There are a lot of things that can be done that people have in their medicine cabinets, or a friend needs it and they have the script. So ask your kids what they've seen, what they've been exposed to. If they say nothing, have this conversation with them and talk to them about all of the things that we've tabled, because at some point they're going to come into contact with one of them.
And they probably already have, even if they say nothing, because it takes more than a first ask. It takes a second, a third, a fourth prodding, going through their stuff. It's really okay. You need to be the parent. That's your responsibility. It's so complicated and there's too much information. They can even Google something they found and figure out what they can do with it. The information availability is also a huge part of this
Scissor, like how you can take cough syrups and figure out what they have in their household that they can use to get nuts. What we have determined is gritty is having a conversation with your kids about all the nitty gritty drugs that are lurking and trying to find their way to them. And us, you're never too old to come across something and try something that could end the day. We should have more campaigns like this is your brain on drugs and it's a frying pan with an egg crackling. We need more awareness campaigns like that. Now we're going to move to our Got Grit Award recipients. Talk about gritty. Our Got Grit Award winner defines grit.
Well, this amazing team, we only have 2 of them in the United States. It's the FEMA Urban Search and Rescue Task Force. They are housed in both Virginia and California, and they are tasked with heading to earthquakes, building collapses, terrorist attacks, hurricanes, and any event that needs us to come and help. They're
hell.
the only two that are able to leave our country to help serve others. And they are in Venezuela right now with the terrible 2 earthquakes that happened there. They are deployed for a few weeks. They're a military operation above in grade of the fire departments. They rescue people out of rubble. They enact each activity looking for survivors, and they treat it not as a search and recover, but as a search and rescue mission in everything they do. And what they do is they put themselves in harm's way with coming into these spaces that are ready to tumble, ready to implode a lot of times. There are 80 from each team deployed, and I'm not sure if that number will go up as they need our assistance. But these natural disasters remind us that we need each other and humanity, and the fact that these people insert themselves into these precarious situations to help people in need. It was grittier than anything.
Authorities report 12,721 people have been displaced and 774 buildings have collapsed. Yeah. Almost 50,000 people, including children, remain missing under rubble, with rescue workers racing against a closing survival window. So these teams, they have work ahead of them.
They have a lot of work ahead of them. And we pray for everyone in Venezuela affected by that enormous natural disaster that there just aren't words for.
Oh, my God. No.
But we do have a lot of words for our song of the week, and hopefully they will inspire you to be someone who goes into a burning building of theory, maybe not practicality. When you're there to help and support somebody, your words can land as help and hope.
The sky was falling and streaked with blood. I heard you calling me, then you disappeared into the dust. Up the stairs, into the fire. Yeah, up the stairs, into the fire. I need your kiss, but love and duty called you someplace higher. Somewhere up the stairs, into the fire. May your strength give us strength. May your faith give us faith. May your hope give us hope. May your love give us love.
It's one of my favorite albums by Bruce Springsteen. That's Into the Fire from his Rising album, post 9/11.
After 9/11.
I got chills as you're reading the lyrics because it's so powerful. The imagery he sets forth in that
And this
song.
is what these teams are doing in Venezuela.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to leave you with. Be a hero, even if it's just saving somebody in your own household by having a conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for tuning in to Girls Gone Gritty.
See you Thursday.
Peace. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Girls Gone Gritty.
Visit us on Instagram, Facebook, and now TikTok.
If this episode hits home, share it with someone who needs to get gritty.
Own it and put the it in grit.
See you next episode.